So today we're going to finish reading the second half of the City of Ember, chapter 7. Yesterday, when we read the first part of chapter 7, we found Lina trying to find an ally. She went to Captain Fleary. She went to her friend Lizzie Biscoe. She's trying to find someone who seems interested and eager to solve the problems of Ember. She found that Captain Fleary was complacent, just kind of in a place of saying, don't worry, it's going to all be fine, help is on its way, just relax. That's complacent. She found Lizzie to be totally unfocused and unable to focus on the job. We're going to finish reading chapter 7. In my version of the book, we are on page 106 on the bottom of that page, that last paragraph. Let's see if Lina finds an ally. Lina made beet soup for dinner that night, and Poppy spilled hers and made a red lake on the table. Granny stared into her bowl, stirring and stirring the soup with her spoon, but she didn't eat. She didn't feel quite right, she told Lina. After a while, she wandered off to bed. Lina cleaned up the kitchen quickly. As soon as her chores were out of the way, she could get back to studying her document. She washed Poppy's clothes. She sewed on the buttons that had come off her messenger jacket. She picked up the rags and sacks and boxes and bags that Granny had tossed out of the closet. And by the time she had done all this and put Poppy to bed, she still had almost half an hour to study the fragments of the paper. She sat down at her desk and uncovered the document. With her elbows on either side of it and her chin resting in her hands, she pored over it. Though Lizzie and Captain Fleary had paid it no attention, Lina still thought this torn-up page must be important. Why else would it have been in such a cleverly fastened box? Maybe she should show it to the mayor, she thought reluctantly. She didn't like the mayor. She didn't trust him either. So if you don't like someone and you don't trust them, do you think they're a good ally? I wonder what Lina will decide. But if this document was important to the future of the city, he was the one who should know about it. Of course, she couldn't ask the mayor to come to her house. She pictured him puffing up the stairs, squeezing through the door, looking disapprovingly at the clutter in their house, recoiling from Poppy's sticky hands. No, it wouldn't do. But she didn't want to take her carefully patched-together document to the gathering hall either. It was just too fragile. The best thing to do, she decided, was to write the mayor a note. She settled down to do this. She found a fairly unspoiled half piece of paper, and using a plain pencil, she wasn't going to waste her colored ones on the mayor, she wrote, Dear Mayor Cole, I have discovered a document that was in the closet. It is instructions for something. I believe it is important because it is written in very old printing. Unfortunately, it got chewed up by my sister, so it is not all there. But you can still read some bits of it, such as, marked with E, fine door of faux, small steel pan. I will show you this document if you want to see it. Sincerely yours, Lina Mayfleet, Messenger, 34 Quilliam Square. She folded the note in half and wrote Mayor Cole on the front. On her way to work the next morning, she took it to the gathering hall. No one was sitting at the guard's desk, so Lina left the note there, placed so that the guard would see it when he arrived. Then, feeling that she had done her duty, she went off to her station. Several days went by. The messages Lina carried were full of worry and fear. Do you have any extra baby drink? I can't find it at the store. Have you heard what they're saying about the generator? We can't come tonight. Grandpa B won't get out of bed. Every day when she got home from work, Lina asked Granny, Did a message come for me? But there was nothing. Maybe the mayor hadn't gotten her note. Maybe he'd gotten it and paid no attention. After a week, Lina decided she was tired of waiting. If the mayor wasn't interested in what she'd found, too bad for him. She was interested. She would figure it out herself. Twice during the week, when Poppy and Granny were both asleep, she'd had a little free time. She'd spent this time making a copy of the document in case anything happened to the fragile original. It had taken her a long time. She used one of her few remaining pieces of paper, an old label slightly torn from a can of peas. The copy was as accurate as she could make it, with the missing bits between the letters carefully indicated as dashes. She had tucked it under the mattress of her bed for safekeeping. Now she finally had a whole free evening. Poppy and Granny were both asleep and the apartment was tidy. Lina sat down at her table and uncovered the patched-together document. She tied back her hair so it wouldn't keep falling in her face, and she put a piece of paper next to her, blank except for a little bit of Poppy scribbling, to write down what she decoded. She started with the title. The first word she'd already figured out. It had to be instructions. The next word could be for. Then came EGRES. She wasn't sure about that. Maybe it was someone's name. Egreston. Instructions for Egreston. She decided to call it the instructions for short. She went on to the first line. This offic doc probably meant this official document. Maybe secure meant secure or security. Then there were the words period and ears and city, but after that so much was missing. She studied the line next to the number 1. Exp. That could be expect or expert or so many things. She moved on to riv. That might be part of a word like drive or strive. What could ip and irk possibly be? They were so close together, maybe they were part of one word that ended with ip. Whip, Lina thought. Trip, slip. What ended with orc? Fork came to mind immediately. Trip fork, slip fork. Nothing she could think of made sense. Maybe it wasn't fork. What else ended in orc? Starting at the beginning of the alphabet, Lina went through all the words that rhymed with fork. Most of them were nonsense. Bork, dork, gork, hork, dork. Oh, this isn't going to work, she thought miserably. Oh, work! Oh, the word could be work! Then what would be the first part? What would the first part be? Trip work? Flip work? But maybe there was a letter between the P and the W. Dips work? Pips work? Suddenly it came to her. Pipeworks! Pipeworks! That had to be it! Something in this message was about the pipeworks. Lina looked back at X and Riv. Riv? That could be river. Rapidly, she ran her eyes down the page. In line 3, she saw Iverbank that looked like riverbank. The word door jumped out at her from line 4, whole on its scrap of paper. Lina took a quick breath. A door. What if it was the one she'd wished for? The one that led to the other city? Maybe her city was real after all, and these were instructions for finding it. She wanted to leap from her chair and shout. The message had something to do with the river, a door, and the pipeworks. And who did she know who knew about the pipeworks? Dune, of course. She pictured his thin, serious face and his eyes looking out searchingly from beneath his dark eyebrows. She pictured how he used to bend over his work at school, holding his pencil in a hard grip, and how during free time he was usually off by himself in a corner, studying a moth or a worm or a taken-apart clock. That was one thing, at least, that she liked about Dune. He was curious. He paid attention to things, and he cared about things, too. She remembered how he'd been on assignment day, so furious at the mayor, so eager to trade his good job for her bad one, so he could help save the city. And he'd taken Poppy inside his father's shop on the day of the blackout, so she wouldn't be afraid. Why had she stopped being friends with Dune? She vaguely recalled the incident of the light pole. It seemed so silly now and long ago. The more she thought about Dune, the more it seemed he was the very person, the only person, who might be interested in what she had found. She placed the plain sheet of paper over the instructions and put the box on top. I'll go and find Dune, she thought. Tomorrow was Thursday, their day off. She would find him tomorrow and ask for his help. Maybe Lina has found the perfect ally. Curious Dune. Serious Dune. Dune who cares about things. He might just be the right ally to help her move the project forward and save the city of Ember. We'll find out more about that in Chapter 8.